For whatever reason, it wasn't as bad this year. Only 1 leader was taken out in that fashion. Ayrton Senna, pole again, but this race highlighted by the re-emergence of Guy Leger's Pirelli shod cars. René Arnoux, second quick, though he fell into third at the start behind the whiz kids of '86, Nigel Mansell and Senna. René would lead some today, along with his unaging teammate, Jacques Lafitte. Early it looked like Nigel was going to win his third in a row, but mysteriously, after struggling a bit, Senna led this procession of Arnoux, Piquet, Johansson, Lafitte, and Prost, became the strongest in the race. He passed back for the lead. Senna had an unscheduled stop for a puncture. It left the lead shared by the surprising Renault-powered Legers. France had beaten Brazil in soccer Saturday, and in the highly conscious Formula One pits, this was a glorious moment for the Frenchman. American Eddie Cheever, a comeback, replacing the injured Patrick Tambay in the Carl Haas Ford-powered car. He ran top 10 solidly before dropping out. Prost, Piquet led briefly. Matter of fact, 6 lead changes in all. Everybody pitted for tires, leaving Senna in the lead, and when he finally did come in, he had such a lead, he never lost it during the stop. Piquet crashed late. Organizers chose not to remove the car from a precarious position, which eventually claimed second-running Arnoux. A very dejected Rennie took the blame, but some must go to whomever made the decision to leave the damaged Williams on course. Late, Lafitte passed friend Prost for second, and on his victory lap, new points leader Senna stopped to gather a Brazilian flag. Think there's some national pride here? Victories tally. Now Senna, Mansell, and Prost each with 2. And now with the accompanying Trans Am story, here's Bob.
As we head into round number 4 of the SCCA Trans Am Series here in Detroit, the score stands Chevrolet 2 and Ford 1. And it turned out to be another Chevy weekend in the Detroit streets under the Renaissance Center. Wally Dallenbach's Camaro had won the last 2 consecutive Trans Ams. The Ford colors being carried here by pole sitter Klaus Ludwig and Scott Pruitt's car. Scott was in the GTO race in West Palm. And Pete Halsmer, who failed to qualify for the race, started near the rear of the field. Ludwig's car failed on the pace lap. Dallenbach jumped in front at the start and led all circuits. Teammate Jim Miller ran second for a while until the hard-charging Halsmer, despite the body damage on the right side, moved to second. Mike Miller drove nearly the entire distance with the front bodywork gone. A late Elliott Forbes Robinson crash, by the way he was in the top 5, forced the race to end under yellow. But Mrs. Wally, Robin McCall Dallenbach, and crew will take it anyway. For Wally and the Chevy Protofab team, a sweet victory in a race sponsored by Ford.
Pete was putting a lot of pressure on me towards the end, and I was really driving hard. But I'll tell you, the Protofab Camaro was fantastic all day long. It ran smooth. I had no problems whatsoever.
Steve Brin is one of America's most active open-wheelers, ARS, Atlantics, even tested Indy cars, but strange incidents are keeping him from the winner's circle. In Detroit Super V's, he, pole sitter Didier Tays, and Mike Groff had a pace lap incident. Okay, but Steve passed the pace car, pitted, and then came back around the entire field to his original second starting position. There are 2 no-nos here. Now, from an aerial view, perhaps the various speeds of the freeway and the racetrack were a bit confusing, but SCCA reports that they black flagged Steve 21 times. Now, they figured it was unlikely he missed it, so they disqualified him, despite leading at the end. David Kudrave was scored as the leader of laps 1 through 20, but a broken distributor awarded the win to Scott Atchison. Groff struggled to an 8, but still leads points. Matt McBride's second was his best ever, and Sports 2000 grad Thomas Knapp was third.
Rounding out the Detroit support car of the SCCA Sports Renaults, you just had a feeling something was going to happen in turn 1 at the start, and it did. This melee finds Ray Kong's Shark-Nose racer eating some concrete. He's okay, and the Shark is put back in the tank. Until today, 4 races, 4 different winners, but now the first repeat winner of this year. Scott Lagasse, in number 27, who checkered the opener at Firebird, holds off Ben Burrell for the victory.
In our next segment, the GTP race is really only the last turn long,
while the GTO race really only lasts 1 turn, the first. Stay with us. ESPN provided same-day coverage of the first ever IMSA race in the streets of West Palm Beach, Florida last Sunday, and what a race it was. Here's Bob Barsha.
In one of the closest races in the history of the International Motorsports Association Camel GT Series, Doc Bundy and Cyril van der Merwe won the inaugural Grand Prix of Palm Beach on Sunday by inches. Throughout the race, run in 90-degree heat, drivers turned to a variety of novel ways to cool off, including turning doors into open windows. With just 15 minutes to go in the 3-hour event, Danny Ungaius crashed the Porsche he shared with 4-time Indy 500 winner A.J. Foyt. That brought out the day's 6th caution flag and set up an electrifying final lap of the 1.6-mile street circuit. On the next-to-last turn, Bundy slipped wide in his Corvette, allowing the lapped Porsche of Derek Bell and the Jaguar of fellow Englishman Brian Redmond past, putting Redmond into the lead. On the last turn, Bundy dove inside Redmond to retake the lead with the Porsche of Darren Brassfield close behind. Off the turn, Bundy won a frantic drag race to the finish over Brassfield by less than 0.4 of a second, preserving the Corvette's second victory of the 1986 season. The Camel Lights division for lightweight prototype cars in Florida was won by the Ferrari-powered Alba racer driven by the Italian team of Martino Finotto, Ruggero Melgrati, and Carlo Facchetti. The next event on the International Motorsports Association Camel GT schedule is Sunday, July 6th at Watkins Glen, New York. From Palm Beach, Florida, this is Bob Barsha reporting.
GTO's 2 top-ranked drivers, Scott Pruitt and Jack Baldwin, each in a position to add points, but only one will succeed. Young Pruitt bucked from pole and into first. That hairpin became a traffic jam. Tommy Riggins and Del Russo-Taylor get acquainted. Veteran Baldwin emerges second, but an exuberant effort will take him into the wall and put him out of the race. No points today. Points leader Pruitt has no challengers, but Indiana's Craig Carter, California's Dennis Ossie, and Florida's Tommy Riggins try to pursue. Later, Russo had this moment of misjudgment at the expense of Riggins. Bruce Jenner gives his 2 cents worth, and Riggins is out. After Ossie dropped out with motor trouble, Pruitt and Carter really received an easy 1-2. Roger Mandeville, as often is the case, won GTU. This GTO race will be seen on ESPN Saturday, July 12th from 3 to 4 Eastern.
Willie T. Ribbs and Wally Dottamack Jr. will team in a new Brooks Freibarger Camaro for the Watkins Glen GTO race. Other combinations will include Jeff Bodine and Jack Baldwin and Benny and Phil Parsons. Bruce Levin's Bayside Disposal team will run 2 cars starting at Watkins Glen. The second will be driven by Bill Adam and Levin.
The BMW IMSA GTP team will return at Watkins Glen. The cars have been tested and upgraded aerodynamically, and John Dick, formerly with the Conti and Diatley operations, has been hired as team manager. Proceeds from a $125 Watkins Glen weekend package will go to the John Collision Trust Fund. Collision was seriously injured in a crash earlier this year at Riverside. Now, that package includes admission to the track, a benefit dinner, and a race day brunch.
Coming up Saturday night in Indy, it's Miller time.
And the same Miller plus another on a Sunday spin in Wisconsin. A blend of the old and the new. NASCAR Grand National still relatively new to this city. The old Ironman Jack Ingram headed toward another national crown. The new hot setup V6 won again, 9th time in 16 tries, and a new winner. New England visiting Bobby Dragon had his race end before it began, while old Darrell Waltrip ran his new Chevy Celebrity for just the 3rd time. Sat on pole and led first. Soon, 12th starter Dale Earnhardt had the point, but fenced with veteran Tommy Houston. Lap 76 of the 200. They touch, carom off the wall, and dive bomb innocent pit exiting Brett Bodine. Broken ribs for Houston. Nobody noticed right now as a visiting Butch Miller, who began 18th in one of the pioneering V6s, ducked into the pits for his only stop. Fuel, no tires. Brad Teague was the other leader, and Waltrip tried this unusual low line several times, but to no real avail. And Ingram, 21st on the grid, had done the usual stop for tires, but couldn't catch the lead. With 40 to go, tire conserving, Miller was in the lead and still running strong. Larry Pearson got close, but couldn't stop Miller from his first NASCAR win ever.
Last Sunday was one of those days for Mark Martin at the Capitol 300 ASA race in Wisconsin. He was fast qualifier for the event, but fell to 2nd behind Dick Trickle and ahead of Mike Eddy early. He dodged spins like the one that involved Kent Stauffer and also Dennis Fogels. Mark received some fast work from his crew during the yellows, and he even survived this incident with leader Butch Miller. Mark continued, but Butch's race was over. Martin fought back and passed Eddy, noticed the big hole in the right side of Eddy's car. Then with just 5 laps to go, he saw Trickle's brakes go away. And although he had only about 10% of his brakes, Mark Martin endured this day and not only won, but put himself in the ASA points lead.
On their mid-season week off, several Winston Cup stars traditionally go dirt tracking. Dave Weekley reports.
The first of 4 dirt track Race of Champions brought 8 of NASCAR's best to the West Virginia Motor Speedway near Parkersburg. Car 23, Terry Labonte, was the fastest qualifier on the 5/8 mile oval. But Joe Ruttman in car 36 passed Labonte in a cloud of dust, literally on the first lap of the 35-lap event. Ruttman held a stranglehold on the field until Daytona 500 champion Jeff Bodine in car number 1 skidded past Joe into the lead on lap 17. While Bodine was living it up in the dirt, Morgan Shepherd was not so lucky. Shepherd left the race with a flat tire on lap 11. Rusty Wallace suffered a similar fate on the 30th lap, and Donnie Allison was done for the day with engine trouble on lap 31. A 4-time winner on the Winston Cup circuit, Bodine led the final 18 laps of the race, averaging just over 110 miles per hour on his way to victory. Ruttman was the runner-up, with Labonte 3rd, Kyle Petty 4th, and the Skull Bandit, Harry Gant 5th. Bodine says he loves to do it in the dirt.
Dirt racing is a lot of fun. People enjoy it. It's exciting. It's a good form of auto racing. That's where I started, so you know, you'll never see me knock it. I love it. You've got to slide the car. You've got to get side bite into the car, lean onto the car. But the track is hard here today. You can drive into the corner pretty good and then get it sideways coming off. You know, just completely different from asphalt. No comparison.
For Speedweek, this is Dave Weekly reporting in Mineral Wells, West Virginia.
2 all-pro races over the weekend. Rusty Wallace drove his V6 Chevy to victory in Pensacola, Florida, and Jody Ridley beat Gary Ballou by inches in Mobile, Alabama.
Weekend sprint activity around the country. Sammy Swindell won his 4th and 5th in a row at Devil's Bowl in Texas. And this flip involving Brad Doty, 16-year-old Chris McDermott, and Bobby Davis Jr. resulted in no injuries. Swindell's bid for 6 in a row in Oklahoma City was spoiled by Ron Schumann.
Hank Lauer in Michigan won his 7th feature in sprints on dirt. That's 7 of 9 total. Kenny Adams won in URC for only the 2nd time in his career. Dave Kelly has also won 7 over the year. And Bob Ciccone, remember him from Super V's, won an all-star outlaw midget feature race at the same track.
From the area auto racing news list, Donnie Kreitz Jr. is the surprise 2nd winningest sprint driver in the country with 11 wins so far. While coming in the highly competitive Central Pennsylvania Tour, Wolfgang has 20.
When we return, 2 hours are enough learning in pavement bikes.
And Glidden paints the town red in drags.
Ricky Graham won the Battle of Bourbon Street AMA Camel Pro Race on the mild dirt at the fairgrounds in New Orleans. Larry Myers reports on the AMA Road Race at Pocono International.
The Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania vacation heartland, played host this past weekend to professional motorcycle racing as the Camel Pro Series invaded the 2.5-mile Pocono Raceway road course. The annual Camel Cycle Jam was highlighted by national point-paying races in the Superbike and Formula One classes. In Saturday's 22-lap Superbike final, Downey, California's Wayne Rainey, number 6, took the lead from the start and led the entire distance. Number 34, Kevin Schwantz, and number 1, Fred Merkel, battled for the runner-up position until Schwantz slowed due to a combination of rear tire problems and a bout with food poisoning. The Suzuki-mounted Texan held on for a 3rd-place finish. Merkel, meanwhile, finished 2nd to his Honda teammate Rainey, who took his 4th straight Superbike win. Rainey is one of only a few riders competing in both Superbike and Formula One. He started from the pole position in Sunday's F1 event and was favored to take the double win. All was going well for Rainey until number 96, Randy Renfro, charged up to challenge for the lead. Rainey could not shake the Virginia rider. The 2 Honda-mounted riders treated Pocono fans to a thrilling display of tight racing in and out of slower traffic. A few times it appeared Rainey had pulled safely away from Renfro, but the F1 Series points leader was soon not only on Rainey's tail, but leading him as well. Almost forgotten was number 99, Cork Ballington. The South African put in a consistent ride for a solid 3rd place. But all eyes were focused on the titanic battle for the lead. The race went down to the wire with Renfro weaving down the front straight and nipping Rainey for the win. It was an emotional win for Randy Renfro and his crew, while Rainey had to be content with a hard-earned, well-deserved 2nd place. This is Larry Myers reporting from Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania.
On the road to the Speedway Motorcycle World Championship, Americans took their quarterfinal step last week in Long Beach. This runoff, held on a long track, qualifies 5 for England next week, with the top finishers from there under the Worlds in Poland. This picture of Sean Moran does not look like that of a man on the verge of winning a night of motorcycle riding, but that's just what he did. 4 first and a second in his 5 heats to score the overall victory. This early heat, a microcosm of the top 3 for the night. Sean leads. Lance King, number 10, will be second, and Sam Ermolenko, played 11, totals third. The other 2 advancers, Bobby Schwartz and Kelly Moran. The night's biggest surprise, John Cook, who scored a perfect 5 wins last year. He fell twice, each on his own, and the second one, when he stayed with the bike, was a stunner.
Last weekend's IHRA drag race at St. Louis saw Bob Glidden make the fastest pass in pro stock drag racing history at 193.1 miles an hour Saturday, but he failed to back it up.
His opponent here in the finals, Roy Hill, who knew his only chance to beat Glidden was to get a good light. But Roy's a little too quick off the line. He red lights, and Glidden returns to the winner's circle after his accident in Atlanta last April. IHRA's other spotlighted division this year is alcohol funny cars. That's Bob Gottschalk in the near lane against Dan Nemo from Kokomo, Indiana. No contest. Gottschalk becomes the 5th division winner in as many races this year. Mark Oswald has been hot in pro funny cars recently. He beat Kenny Bernstein last weekend in Columbus. Now he's in the finals against Tom McEwen. Both have nearly identical reaction times, but Oswald's 580 at 254.9 is good enough for the title.
Now here's the formula for this week's trivia question of the chassis which have won at least one Formula One race, which has the longest non-winning streak. A. Tyrrell, B. Leger, C. Arrows, D. Lola, or E. Brabham. The answer in a moment. Here's the answer. Tyrrell hasn't won a Grand Prix since Michele Alboreto, Detroit, 1983. Arrows and Lola have never won. And Brabham hasn't won since the French Grand Prix last year. So the answer is B, Leger, whose losing streak dates back to September of 1981 when Jacques Lafitte won the Canadian Grand Prix.
Steve Michael reports on powerboat racing in the Southeast last weekend.
Over 30,000 fans from throughout the Southeast lined the banks of the Savannah River in Augusta, Georgia, to witness the first rounds of the International Outboard Grand Prix Championships for 1986. The premier class that everyone was waiting for, the powerful champ boats were dominated in practice by Americans led by St. Paul, Minnesota driver Chris Busch, who put his boat on the pole with an average speed of 113 miles an hour. The Seabolds from St. Louis, Mike and Father Bill, rounded up the top 3 qualifiers. At the start of the 50-lap event, it was Mike Seabold getting a jump and into the lead for the first quarter of the race until Englishman Mark Wilson took over and took a 9-second victory, with Chris Busch finishing second and Bill Seabold finishing third. 2 other races during the second annual River Race Augusta event were less tame and likely to keep the fans on their feet. Mod VP class pole sitter Fred Bowden out of Monrovia, California, won the race, shortened a 23-lap affair after a few blowouts stopped the event, with hometown driver Rusty Campbell coming in second. The SST 140 World Championship race was the wildest event of the day, with the 40-lap race being stopped and restarted 3 times, with drivers and boats beginning a new season in a big bang boom type of style. In the final outcome, it was Mickey Garrett of Lakeland, Florida, picking up the popular victory. This is Steve Michael reporting.
Next week on Speed Week, Indy Cars, Super Vs, and the American Racing Series at the Meadowlands. I'm Larry Newber.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. We'll see you next week on Speed Week.
Speed Week has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. And by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution. For all